Hello there, my name is Thomas O'Regan. I'm a professional investor here in Australia. Now, I just wanted to talk about why I think if you are building a property portfolio from an investment standpoint, why I honestly think apartments are better than houses. And this isn't a comment to say that apartments are always better than houses as an investment acquisition for an investment portfolio, but I just mean at the moment, right? And why do I mean that? Because if you're a true investor, you invest using principles, and a good few principles to have are buy for capital growth or buy with the potential for capital growth, buy under market value, and buy with strong cash flow. If you're ignoring any of these things, or if you're hitting two of these things and ignoring the other one, then your strategy is probably unsustainable in terms of scaling a professional level property portfolio. Scaling, there's a lot of people that invest in property and they may have 1, 2, or 3 properties, but to get to 6+ properties, you really have to be doing something different to get to financial freedom like that. And there's a reason why there's only like less than 1% of Australian people that own a 6+ property portfolio, because you need to use the principles to get there. Now, I just want to go through some examples that make an apartment a good investment. So if you're buying apartments below replacement cost, or if you're buying anything below replacement cost, it's a good investment. And I mean, the point is, if you're buying anything below replacement cost, it's a good investment, okay? So don't get too hung up on if it's a house or an apartment. If fundamentally you're buying it below replacement, that is one thing that you can hold on to that is making it a good investment. Now, another thing that when it comes to property makes it a good investment is timing, right? And it is possible to time the properties, right? Because there's a thing with properties, it's called the property market cycle, and it goes up and it goes down and it goes sideways. And if you learn what makes properties go up and what makes properties go down and all that sort of stuff, you start to see patterns and notice where a certain property market is at in its cycle. And I'm just going to use the Northern Beaches in Sydney for an example. And it's not typically somewhere I'd invest, but it is somewhere that I would buy a home to live in. Now, in the Northern Beaches, Sydney, it's a highly desirable area to live, okay? So the problem with the area is it is extremely expensive for the average Australian person to be able to afford. So most of the people that buy properties here either already own properties here or are getting family money, meaning money from their parents, or they're business owners that are quite successful and make a lot of money through their business. So that's the type of people that buy in the Northern Beaches, and all the other people just can't get in, okay? Now, what happened in 2020? The interest rates dropped. So what did that do to the property prices on the Northern Beaches? The property prices on the Northern Beaches were already high, as I said, but the prices skyrocketed to even more higher heights. Why? Because the interest rates dropped, the properties to buy them, it became more affordable from a monthly payment perspective, as in like the loan you have to pay to purchase the property was low enough for people to afford. So more people came into the marketplace, putting more demand on the properties in the marketplace. All the people that could have already afford can still afford, and ultimately it just pushed the prices of the properties in that area way up. So from 2020 to 2023, 24 possibly, like maybe start of 2024, the properties in the Northern Beaches went way up. Okay, so that was the peak of the property market cycle on the Northern Beaches. And then what happened after that? The interest rates started going up to ridiculous levels. Well, not ridiculous levels, that is tripled, doubled, quadrupled, whatever, right? They went from 2% to 6%, getting on their way to 7% now at the bank level. Now, what has that done to the property prices? It's totally destroyed the market in terms of the demand, or there's still the same amount of supply, but there's no people looking for properties anymore because no one can afford them. There's not as many people that can afford them, right? So actually some of the properties that sold in 2022, 2024, today in 2026, they're selling for less than that price, okay? So if you understand property market cycles, you can benefit, okay? So I just wanted to make that clear. You can time the property market. I'm not saying like you can, if you can read property markets, you can see what is going on in the current marketplace, and you can choose to either participate in that marketplace at the time, understanding what is happening, or you can choose to look at another marketplace that is more suitable for you to invest in at that time. And for me, from an investing standpoint, I like to go to markets that are repressed because I can get better discounts in those markets opposed to buying in markets that are overheated, okay? So that applies to apartments or houses, but if you're buying in a repressed market that is about to go through a cycle, like a boom cycle, you can make a lot of money, right? Whether it's an apartment or a house. Affordability is a huge driver as I just clearly mapped out, is a huge driver when it comes to investing in property. And the reality is, these days, most people can't afford to buy a house anymore. So they are having to buy apartments. And that means there is putting pressure on the apartment market, and that is pushing up the price of apartments. That's why I honestly, there's people think apartments are not good investments, but in a lot of circumstances they can be. And don't get me wrong, in a lot of circumstances they can't be. Also, I wanted to lay out, when it comes to buying apartments, the apartment itself has a land component. And when you're comparing a house to an apartment, what you should be comparing is what is the actual value of the land component within this apartment or houses. And sometimes the apartment can have a higher land component than the house. So just keep that in mind when you are thinking, should I buy a house or should I buy an apartment? See you guys next time. Bye.